Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I got what I needed from Trader Joe's. The lady at the front desk was really nice, brightened up my spirit a lot, especially after the conversation we just had. You know, so shout out to her, man. But yeah, man, I've been watching what's going on, and I've been telling you guys about Lebanon. That whole situation is just ridiculous. And then I'm looking at what's going on with First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name correctly. And she came out today and just essentially said, "Yo, I don't know Epstein. I'm not offline with him. We went to some of the same parties, but the rumors about me being friends with him has to stop." Like, who the hell asked you that? Did anybody ask you that? I didn't see her name in any emails from the Epstein files at all. She came out and said that she was not a victim of Epstein. Like, anybody said that? Why are you saying these things right now? It makes me think something's on the way. The powers that be may be finally ready to do away with Donald and some of these Epstein guys. They probably just say, okay, it's about time to just pull the plug. You know, I think this is something that I said about basketball. And like the same team, you know, the team that you want to develop, the young guys, you needed one type of coach. And then to kind of take those guys to the next level, you may need a different coach. We refer to the Golden State Warriors doing that. Mark Jackson developed the young guys. They fired him, brought in Steve Kerr, and he won them championships. You need different leaders for different things, I suppose. And essentially what I'm saying to you is, I would imagine the powers that be are saying, we don't necessarily need the same leaders in place to tear everything down and build everything up. They're going through the process of tearing things down in the Middle East. They're trying to build Pax Judaica. They got a bunch of individuals, certain types of individuals in place to secure that their intentions are done in this regard. Donald Trump, and all the others. Are those necessarily the same people that you want in place when you're trying to build up Pax Judaica? When it's time to sell people on the idea that this is about to be whatever you were saying it's going to be? I doubt it. I don't think they want the same type of personalities in place for the next phase of their intentions. I could be wrong, but it's just a hunch that maybe it's time to start phasing some people out. I've been watching a lot of what Donald Trump's his cabinet's being fired one at a time. Different faces that were talking to us just 3 weeks ago are no longer in position. And I'm just saying, yeah, that's kind of what I'm sensing is going on here. It's time to phase in different faces for this next process, and I think that's what we're looking at here. I could be wrong, but I think that's what we're looking at here. As they're saying, yeah, nah, not these folks for this what we're doing here. This does not require the same individuals. We need some different individuals for this here. So that's just something I think is happening here. I think they might be ready to pull the plug on old Donnie. I think that they say, thank you, Donnie, for your services, but you will no longer be required. That's what I think is happening. I think they about to face his ass out. I wouldn't be surprised if a big time indictment's coming down in regards to these Epstein files. That's going to just whisk him away. And they'll let somebody else take over. I think that's what's about to happen. I could be wrong. We'll see. But Melania coming out independently saying, yo, I ain't have nothing to do. I didn't have anything to do with that. Like, yeah, you're being told to distance yourself from your husband and what it is that's ultimately coming for his ass. I know what I'm looking at there. That ain't too hard to tell. So, give me a second as I need to put some things in my backpack. This is the first time that I've seen somewhere that's rest to do so. But, yeah, so Melania's acting funny right now. She's acting real distant from Donnie. It looks like she's about to let him go all under that bus. Throw him all up under that mud. So I don't know if I have any opinions about that at all. I don't care. If I'm being honest with you, I could care less what happens to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has done what he's done, man. When you let your transgressions of the past affect your decisions of the day, you will be attached to both. Not just the decisions, not just those transgressions. You will be attached to both. And that's what I think is happening to good old Donnie right now. He's got the reputation of being not only a PDF file, but also a really, really horrible leader and a coward, more or less, for allowing them to blackmail him in this way. And a genocider and a clown. And I'm afraid that's pretty much what's going to be spoken of when his name is mentioned. It's not going to be that he was rich. It ain't going to be none of that other stuff that came on that happened to Apprentice, none of that. It ain't going to be his 2 tenures as president. It's going to be that he was Israel's puppet, and it was because he couldn't control himself sexually. That will be his legacy. That will be that man's legacy. And you shouldn't want that for yourself, Donnie. I say that much. You shouldn't want that for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody should want that for themselves. Pick a struggle, bro. You don't have to be a coward and a sex freak. If you're a sex freak, you're a damn sex freak. But don't compound the sex freakiness with being a bad leader and a poor decision maker and a bad judge of character and all these other different things that people are going to say about you, dog. You know, all these different little derogatory words for people who roll over. I'm not going to use any of them terms because it ain't necessary. You get the point. But I ain't trying to be associated with that and still have the reputation of all the different things that I would otherwise have liked to have hidden from the world. You're just compounding your own poor reputation, character. I don't know. Some people are too arrogant to do what's best for them sometimes. You know, like, just too arrogant. Maybe they were compelled strongly enough to where I couldn't even fathom that backed them into these types of situations. I can't fathom. I don't know. But maybe that pressure was just right for them. I don't know. But I can tell you this: the man's disgraced. He's disgraced in so many different ways at this point. And now everything that comes out of his mouth is a damn joke. Because he's trying to continue to align with these people that clearly don't have his best interests at heart, his reputation just goes further and further and further into the toilet. Most of the people who supported him, if they're not absolutely out of their damn mind, they're starting to be unhappy with the decision to do so. It's all of this is so unnecessary, man. It's so unnecessary. You got people that love his dirty draws, that would throw anybody under the bus for saying a bad thing about this man, now coming out saying we do not align with this guy, we regret our decision, he duped us. You got a whole cult following. They would follow you to the end of the road. And somehow you lost a good portion of them people, man. The only ones you still got left are the ones who are not mentally well. Or not smart enough to see very simple things. You know what I mean? The people who are left supporting Donnie are Zionists, mentally ill people, and the severely slow. Those are the only people left. Those are the only people left, Donnie. And the Zionists don't give a shit about you, dog. The only quote-unquote sane individuals that have your support is contingent on you continuing to do awful things to deteriorate your own reputation and destroy your country. That's why they love you, because you're willing to destroy your country and be the face of it while doing so. There are things worse than being a sex sicko, dog. Really, they are. Worst president of all time. The facilitator of Armageddon. Pushover. There are things worse, man. I guess I'm a bad guy for saying all this. These are thought crimes. That's what they were trying to turn this whole thing into. You can't think certain things. You think certain things and it's wrong. They're trying to force behavior. This is the type of conversation I'm hearing. Force behavior. You got to force people to align with what it is that we agree with. A lot of people have the wrong stuff in their head. We have to coerce them the right way. They're thinking the wrong things. We need to train them better so that they're thinking the things that we want them to think. Like, yo, man, I'm telling y'all, at this point, I'm just looking at God saying, give me the right way to move, man, because my understanding does not have the right stuff rolling around in my head either. Some of my raw thoughts are, I'm glad I'm 41 years old because I ain't got to live that much longer in this world that they're creating for the rest of y'all. I'm perfectly fine with not being here. I'm kind of tired of this. There's been some people that have passed away that I legitimately think, regardless of what age they were just legitimately tired of the world they were in and were perfectly fine with leaving this place. I don't want to place that upon anybody specific because you never really know what a person's thinking, and if they passed away, they can't exactly tell you. But I've gotten the notion that a couple of people who've lived and died were ready to go. I can relate. I can relate. I'm not ready to go, but I'm glad I'm not just starting my life. I guess that's my point of view. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm glad this is not. I'm glad I'm not 20 years old. I'm glad I'm not a child or a teenager. Seriously, y'all. I'm so serious. I never thought I would say that. A lot of people that I've known in life, they be like, oh, I'm getting old, man. Damn, it's just getting old. I'm tired. Oh, man. Getting old sucks. I wish I could be young again. No, not me. No. I look at the young people. I don't envy y'all. No. Well, what it is that these Zionists are trying to create for you, what kind of life they want for you, what type of death they're trying to coerce you toward, I'm cool. From what I understand, essentially now, I think I forgot what month it is, so I don't want to misspeak, but at some point in time over the next 6 months, they're going to start implementing automatic registrations for people between the ages of, I think they said 18 and 24. Automatic registration into the military, which is a prelude to the draft being reinstated. And we have this culture where we shun people for dodging the draft. I hear people say that about Donnie, like, oh, he's a draft dodger. It's cowardice. You wouldn't fight for your country. I mean, in the world, especially if you're living in a dignified land where your government's fairly respectable, people around you are standing for the right things and helping one another, all good people. Yeah, you want to fight for that land. If you've been on the land for 6,000 years, never had to be displaced before, hell yeah, you got to fight to keep that. But like for us who stole the land 500 years ago, did all types of evil stuff here, and are now basically occupied by a satanic religious extremist group who ultimately want to bring chaos and destruction to the innocents. Yeah, dying for them probably, nah. I'm kind of cool, dog, if I'm being honest with you. I'm kind of cool. One of many reasons why I'm glad I'm not in my early 20s, because that's what they're about to do to y'all. They're gonna send y'all off to fight against Iran and on behalf of Israel, and against Hezbollah on behalf of Israel. And if you watch my previous therapy session video, I'm not really sure what to think of Iran anymore, to be honest with you. On its surface, it looks like they're pretty solid. You look a little closer, and I have a reason to believe that you shouldn't trust their ass either. The deeper I look at them, the less I trust them, if I'm being honest with everybody. That's kind of where I'm at with that. They starting to look a little funny in the light to me. And so am I going to fight a war against them when I'm not really even sure they're actually fully against who occupies me? They just are performing as if they are. Them two may actually be in cahoots with one another. Secretly. Maybe this is my paranoia. I'm telling y'all, man, they ain't passing the smell test. They're not passing the smell test. And so you could be going to war with an enemy that ain't even really your damn enemy. Against people just as lost and confused as you are. Being sent to their doom for no reason at all. Just like you are. Yeah, that's what they're doing. That's what it looked like to me at this point. I'm cool. I can't speak for nobody else, but it's going to be practically impossible to guilt trip me into thinking that I need to be shamed of not fighting for them. That's going to be tough, buddy. Good luck with that one. So yeah, man, these are just my raw thoughts. You know. As I'm telling y'all, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I don't even really know what to feel. I think that my mind is actually starting to really deteriorate from all of this carnage that I'm seeing in my phone for the past 3 years. And looking at the devastation from what's going on in Lebanon as of late, it's just like, yo, I thought that we were past this. Although if I re-examine that thought, I didn't actually think that at all. Hey, buddy. I didn't actually think that at all. I really didn't. I was pretty sure they were going to keep going. That's why I kept telling y'all they would. But at the same time, it's like, you would hope that at the very least, you wouldn't have to keep seeing more of the carnage. And that is ultimately what I think the real thought is in my head. You would hope that you had seen the last of every day a new child dead in your phone, like we were seeing 2 years ago. Some of the images that we seen, I was hoping that would be the end of that. But Israel's continuing on the path, and they got new people they trying to do this too, and they're using the same psychologically damaging excuse, saying that they're trying to look for bad guys in the presence of a bunch of innocent people, and that they got to kill these innocent people in order to kill the bad guys. It's infuriating, and it's insanity, and I think it's doing a lot of damage to not only my psyche, but probably everybody else who's been watching this for the last 3 years. And they're driving us into a space of radicalism, I believe. A good portion of people are probably being driven radical by this. And I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. I think that's what a lot of these psychological operations are supposed to do. Is try to drive us into a position to play the way they need us to play on their chessboard. So that they can engage in even more sick and twisted behaviors that they can justify in more prominent and more established areas of the globe. Because that's really what comes of this, is I try to assess psychologically what I'm feeling. They make you want to hurt people, you know. You see enough of this shit enough of the time. And these psychological applications essentially radicalize you. You start deteriorating your personality. You start rooting for the death of individuals that you don't know who you believe are doing these things. You start thinking, man, the only way to stop this is if I do something. And what does that do? That effectively allows for you to become somebody that they can then do something to and be justified in doing so. And if they can turn enough of us into that, then they can do all types of weird stuff with ICE and just like get on the streets and do this martial law shit that they want to do, and take away our constitutional rights, take away our right to bear arms across the nation, take away our ability to speak freely, control our behavior, ultimately implement what I just mentioned, which is crime thoughts, into something that they can actually have as legislation. It gives them justification for taking away our rights. So we got to fight against what comes naturally to us, because we need to know that we're being course corrected toward that very behavior. And with those behaviors can then more of what it is they would like to see happen take place. It's chess, not checkers. I keep telling people. And the best thing we can do is turn to God and follow exactly what it is that He's telling us to do, and not confuse that with intentions that are placed in place by the enemy to coerce us away from God by way of the disruptions within those religions, which is very tricky, because it's hard to tell what's what. It's hard to tell what's what. But as I tell people, I think the best thing to do is to have a relationship with God and to let compassion be your true north. If it ain't aligned with compassion for innocence, compassion for those who can't help themselves, then it likely should be discarded of. And if it's within them books that you should weaponize yourself against the innocent, or consider lost life of innocent people as collateral damage for a greater good, then chances are it is no good. Because those are the methods of the enemy. And you see what comes of that. As you're frustrated with it, as you see him do it. And so that's the best thing I can tell you. It's a lot of misdirection, but if you keep your eyes on the living God, you can do good with that. You do the best you can. He can work around that. A lot of our religion is not meant for our betterment. Unfortunately, I've learned that. A lot of stuff in our religion is meant for us to be at war with one another, and really don't hold much of a connection with the living God, the Creator at all. That's what I've learned. I'm continuing to learn that. This is the more I start to study religion. And I was asking God for some help with something this morning, and look, I don't know, right? It's the first thing I want to say before we get into this conversation. I don't know. But there's something that's frustrating me a little bit. And I've mentioned this before, it's not the first time, but Jesus Christ is considered the Son of God by Christians. He's considered just a mere prophet by the good people of Islam, whom I respect and love a lot. But the problem that I have as a Christian person who's come to not only believe in Jesus Christ, but call on his name and seeing miracles happen in my own life, the proof that I needed to believe in him has come my way. So the further I get into my life where that is the case, the further I become frustrated with the notion that people can say they love and respect Jesus Christ as a prophet, but then call him a liar in their same breath when he declares to all of us that he's the Son of God. I struggle with that, my Muslim brothers and sisters. I struggle with that with my very dense, very ignorant mind. The only way I understand how to receive that is to take disrespect from that. And in an isolated space of time, disrespect toward Jesus Christ doesn't feel abnormal or something that otherwise I'm particularly passionate about as a Christian person. If you want to disrespect Jesus Christ, that's your business. That's how I've looked at it most of the time. But now in the presence of the Zionist Jew, who's went out of his way to disrespect everything that Jesus Christ stood for, I feel certain sensitivity about disrespect pointed at Jesus Christ from anyone. And I'm just asking God to help me understand how to receive their truth, because they do declare a great deal of respect for Jesus Christ, of whom they revere as a prophet of God. And they have a great deal of reverence and appreciation for him, for which I appreciate as a person of the belief in Christ. But the problem that I have with their position on Christ is that you're calling him a liar. You call him a prophet of God, and in that same breath, you're essentially saying he's not who he say he is. What benefit is it to him to lie to us about who he is? And what prophet of God is going to bring forth lies about himself? If you want to say I'm a liar, that's your business. I'm a regular guy. I ain't die for nobody's sins. But to say you respect the prophet of God and in that same breath call him a liar, you have to show me where it benefits him to do so. And maybe you've brought that evidence to the table. I just haven't been exposed to it yet. Maybe you have a legitimate argument for why you think he would tell people he's somebody he's not. I'm ready to hear it. But I'm struggling with that, my Muslim brothers and sisters. I'm struggling with that, Islam. I'm struggling with that. And I'll fight for you and against your enemies because I agree that we're faced with the same devil. But I'm having a hard time rationalizing why you've convinced yourself that a prophet of God would lie to his people about who he is. I'm having a hard time with that. And why you guys have been able to move for thousands of years with that being your truth. I have a hard time with that. I don't understand that. If that's not disrespect, what is it? That's all. That's basically the point. It ain't much deeper than that. It ain't much more passionate than that. Like I said, there's no disrespect. I think there could potentially be a great deal of evidence behind what it is they're saying or whatever. I just haven't heard it. But as a person who is called on Christ and he's come through in my life in some divine ways, and I didn't call him a prophet. I said the words of that acknowledge that he died for my sins, that he is that for which he says he is, and that everything that he says is true, and that everything he's tried to lead me to do has been best for me. If I'm going to align with that being what I think or believe, then how can I convince myself that the people who say he's not who he is my friend? We call ourselves believers in the same God that I serve, that he serves, that he tells me to serve. But then tell me that he's a liar when he tells me he's his son. Lying is aligned with wickedness, is it not? Energies and attitudes of the enemy of God, is it not? And you're accusing a great prophet of engaging in those behaviors to mislead people into believing that he is something greater than he is? To what purpose? To what purpose? It's much easier for me to receive that you don't respect him, that you don't like him because he lied, that you do not see him as a prophet of God. Because trying to wrap my head around all the respect that you're applying to him, and then to, in that same breath, call him a liar, is especially degrading to my mind, yo. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense. I can't make that make sense, no matter how hard I try. And I have a hard time with people who believe in God, who call him a prophet, allowing that to seep into their hearts and letting it settle without being at war with that themselves. If I believe a prophet of God is a liar, he ain't no prophet of God. If I believe somebody's trying to misdirect a world full of people, all of the generations of the earth's people, into believing he's something greater than he is, I'm not saying peace be upon him, dog. Ain't no peace toward that energy. Bdf 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.